Hey y'all, welcome back. Happy Thursday. Assalamu alaikum. Today's video is titled Mind-Blowing Prophecies of Muhammad, peace be upon him. I know this has been requested several times and I've kind of had it on the back burner. I've been meaning to see this. I'm definitely extremely curious about it. So today we're going to go ahead and do this, and I'm going to continue my learning journey about Islam and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So let's go, man.
Arab Bedouins Prophecy. From millennium past, there were two types of Arabs, city dwellers and Bedouins. Bedouins are nomads. They travel through the vast deserts and are constantly on the move. Even during the golden age of Islam, when Arabs were the richest and most learned people on earth, Bedouins remained in virtually the same state that they had been for thousands of years, poor, uneducated, and cut off from the rest of the world. Yet Muhammad, peace be upon him, foretold that these Arab Bedouins of his region would one day compete with one another in the construction of tall buildings. "Now tell me of the last hour," asked the man. The Prophet replied, "That you see the barefoot, unclothed Bedouins competing in the construction of tall buildings." Today we find in the Arabian Peninsula, the Bedouins who used to be impoverished herders of camels and sheep are now not only competing with one another, but also the entire world to construct the world's tallest buildings.
I do have a question. Are there still Bedouins that are nomadic that kind of like just live in the desert and just roam around? That'd be interesting to see something like that, in 2023. Okay, let's go, man.
With one another, but also the entire world to construct the world's tallest buildings. How did one of the poorest people on earth, who literally wore rags, become the wealthiest nations on earth? One thing that made this rapid change possible was the discovery of oil. The seemingly empty deserts of the Bedouins had it in abundance. They went from camels to Cadillacs in a single generation. The construction of tall buildings among the Arab Bedouins has even reached Mecca, Muhammad's city of birth. The last few decades have seen a massive surge in building construction in Mecca. The famous Mecca Clock Tower is currently the third tallest building in the world. In order for such construction to be possible, many of Mecca's ancient mountains had to be demolished in order to make room for the tall buildings that had sprung up. Amazingly, this is also something that Muhammad had foretold. He said, "The hour will not be established until the mountains are moved from their places." This tremendous feat of demolishing entire mountains has only been made possible in the 20th century with the advent of technology such as explosives.
I believe he said the hour will not be established until the mountains are moved, or something insinuating that. That hour, in this case, are we talking about basically the end times? Is that what these prophecies are in reference to? All right, let's go.
Possible in the 20th century with the advent of technology such as explosives. It's important to point out that Muhammad himself was a simple man and wanted other Muslims to maintain that simplicity. He did not like Muslims to be extravagant. So, if he wanted to will this prophecy to become true, he would have to encourage the Arabs to build tall buildings, yet he never did.
Okay, that's cool. That's that's definitely a good prediction, a good prophecy, as you can see there. And to think about the oil, if we go back to that for a minute, is back in those times, in let's see, like 500, 680, somewhere around there, right? Is to even consider or think about that these trillions and like just countless money from oil, oil production, especially in the Middle East, is to be able to predict something like that. That's crazy, man. And that picture of Mecca, that panoramic view, that was awesome. And that tower, I did not know that was the third largest in the world. And but that panoramic picture, that's beautiful. I would love to just have that on my wall, like a super HD, like 4K picture of that. That's awesome, man. All right, let's go.
Build tall buildings, yet he never did. Spread of sexual immorality and disease. Muhammad, peace be upon him, revealed that the Day of Judgment would not take place until sexual immorality had become so prevalent and normalized that it would begin to be carried out even in public places. He said, "The hour will not be established until people fornicate with each other in the road, just as donkeys fornicate." Today we live in a world where we are being constantly bombarded with explicit sexual imagery, be it in TV, film, or advertising. And with the advent of the internet, pornography has now become readily available at any time in any place. In fact, we are finding more and more stories in the news of people being arrested for having sex in public. And an interesting side note is that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, described what will be the consequences of such widespread sexual immorality. He said, "Never does sexual perversion become widespread and publicly known in certain people without them being overtaken by disease that never happened to their ancestors who came before them." The increase of sexual immorality has seen the emergence of previously unheard of diseases such as AIDS, just as the Prophet Muhammad had forewarned.
Yeah, I gotta say, man, I think that pornography is one of the worst things to ever happen to mankind. It is immoral, you know. It just everything about it. It's disgusting. It destroys young men's minds. It destroys young women's lives. Everything about it is just wrong, you know. It's just disgusting. And this part about the disease, yeah, if you're out there doing that and being irresponsible, fornicating, and you know, just having sex with random people, you're gonna end up paying for that.
Diseases such as AIDS, just as the Prophet Muhammad had forewarned. A world steeped in interest. Muhammad, peace be upon him, claimed that the practice of interest would one day become so dominant that even those who try to avoid it will still feel its impact. He said, "A time will come upon mankind when they will consume interest. Whoever does not take from it will be afflicted by its dust." This clearly describes the state of the world economy today. In the modern world, it is almost impossible to avoid dealing with, or at the very least being impacted by, interest. Just think about how many people have interest-bearing bank accounts and buy things using credit cards. Even if one somehow manages to avoid dealing in interest directly, almost every aspect of our lives is impacted by it. Central banks influence the purchasing power of our money, and virtually every country in the world, even those considered to be wealthy, are drowning in interest-based debt. The financial system even suffered a global collapse in 2008, a disaster which had plunged the world into economic turmoil, the consequences of which will be felt for generations to come.
Yeah, so in Islam, riba and or usury, I think that those terms are basically the same thing, right? So in Islam, you can't do business with interest, right? Like you can't like if you guys live in the United States, like there's like an alternative method for you guys to say buy a home if you don't have the cash and you need to be lended money from a bank. I was trying to figure that out. I don't know if that was in the clear Quran in the beginning. I don't know if I read it in one of the chapters about usury and riba, but I agree. I agree that it is wrong, and I think it's corrupt. And I think that these collapses and all these inflations, I hope I don't get banned from YouTube for saying this, but it seems like it's 100% intentionally orchestrated, and this is all done on purpose, and it's people behind the scenes that are making money from doing it while everyone else around them is suffering. And, you know, may God have mercy on them on Judgment Day for knowingly doing this to, you know, millions and millions, hundreds of millions, billions of people, because that's messed up. It's wrong. You know, I'm definitely feeling the effects of that inflation, like groceries. The cost of eggs at one point, they went up to like, it was like $7.50 or $7.80 for a dozen eggs. And in Texas, that is absolutely absurd. You know, like you should be paying like, I don't know, $2, $2.50, maybe something like that. But man, dude, I could talk about that all day. All right, let's go, man.
The consequences of which will be felt for generations to come. What makes this prediction amazing is that the financial state of the world over the last century is unique in history. At the time of Muhammad, finance was based on commodities with intrinsic value, such as gold and silver coins. Gold and silver have been used as the most common form of currency throughout history. The use of paper money with no intrinsic value, along with the massive debt and interest that it has resulted in, is a phenomenon of modern finance, and not something that could have been easily guessed by Muhammad over 1400 years ago. The defeat of Rome and the conquest of Persia.
You know, I just want to touch on that one more time. Is I think, yeah, originally like in the U.S., it's your money is supposed to be like based off of like gold. You know what I mean? Like that, like a dollar bill and all that. And we all know that that's excuse my language, BS. That it's just like they just print money whenever they want. They do whatever they want. And it's extremely clear what's going on now. You would have to be a complete fool to not see that there is some type of new world order organization of some kind, and they are doing things behind the scenes. They are plotting and planning these activities. It's not just a random activity or a random decision from a politician or a mistake or something that caused all this. No, this is highly orchestrated, and I no doubt in my mind it's illegal on every single level, and it is certainly unethical. All right, let's go.
The defeat of Rome and the conquest of Persia. During the Battle of the Trench, where Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his followers were under siege by their enemies, being outnumbered 3-1 and staring in the face of certain defeat, the Prophet made some bold predictions. He said, "God is most great. I have been given the keys of Syria. By God, I can see its red palaces at the moment. God is most great. I have been given Persia. God is most great. I have been given the keys of Yemen." At that moment, Muhammad had made the astonishing claim that the Muslims would not only take the lands of Yemen and Syria, much of which was under the occupation of the Roman Empire, but that they would also defeat the mighty Persian Empire. Historically, Muhammad's companions saw this prophecy fulfilled before their very eyes, as they went on to defeat the Romans and conquer Persia. What are the odds that the Muslims, who lacked economic and military strength, could topple the superpowers of the world in such a short span of time? The astonishing way that the Muslims defeated the superpowers captured the world by surprise. As historian Barnaby Rogerson explains, you have to remember that the two great superpowers were the Byzantine Empire, i.e. the Eastern Roman Empire, and Sassanid Persia. They were the dominant superpowers. If you're putting it in a modern parlance, it's a bit like the Eskimos taking on the United States of America and Russia. No rational person would have ever conceived of such a possibility. This sentiment is echoed by historians who cannot explain how Islam became such a dominant force so quickly. Professor of Byzantine Studies, Andrew Louth, wrote, "The speed with which the eastern provinces of the Byzantine Empire succumbed to the Arabs remains to be explained by historians." Prevalence of writing.
That's crazy. So they said it was like Eskimos, like if they were basically trying to take over the United States and Russia, right? And the Eskimos being the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his crew, like his companions or his army at that time. This is wild, man. I love these videos. I love the way they narrate them and make those points. You know, it's like easy to understand. It's crazy, man. All right, let's go.
Prevalence of writing. Many of us take for granted the ability to read and write, and the abundance of books that are available in the modern age. However, for the people of the past, illiteracy was the norm, and books were very scarce. Muhammad, peace be upon him, was born into a society in which very few people could read or write. It is estimated that the number of people who were literate in his locality of Western Saudi Arabia did not exceed 17. Muhammad himself could not read or write. Against this backdrop, the Prophet Muhammad made the prediction that writing will one day become widespread among mankind. He said, "Ahead of the hour, the pen will prevail." The Arabic word used for pen here is qalam, which also carries the wider meaning of writing. This perfectly describes our world today, in which it is the norm for people to read and write, and there is an abundance of books, newspapers, and magazines. This has only been made possible thanks to 15th century technological advances, such as printing that took place over 800 years after Muhammad's prophecy. And with the advent of the internet, writing is spreading even more. Anybody with a computer or smartphone now has access to millions of books with just the click of a finger. It's quite powerful that Muhammad, who could neither read nor write, prophesies the spread of reading and writing. The greening of Arabia's deserts. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, made a bold prediction about the future state of Arabia. He said, "The hour will not begin until the land of the Arabs once again become meadows and rivers." This narration anticipated the greening of Arabia's extensive dry desert environment. As recently as 1986, there was little to no farming in the region. However, over the last 30 years, these deserts have been transformed to grow grains, fruits, and vegetables, thanks to techniques such as center pivot irrigation. This is a process that pumps water to the surface from deep underground reserves, some of which date back to the last ice age 20,000 years ago. Now put yourself in the position of a person living in 7th century Arabia. This region hosts some of the most extensive sand and gravel deserts in the world, with very little rainfall. Could anyone inhabiting such a harsh environment ever rationally conceive of the possibility that one day there would be a plentiful supply of water and abundant crops? This prophecy also makes a claim about the ancient past. Note the words of Muhammad, "The lands of the Arabs once again become meadows and rivers." By saying once again, he is implying that at one stage in their history, the deserts were lush with vegetation and life, and that they will be returning to this former state. Geologists now know that the Arabian Peninsula was, indeed, once filled with meadows and rivers in ancient times. Modern archaeological discoveries have uncovered a number of fossils and conclude that once upon a time, the Arabian Peninsula was much greener and wetter, just as Muhammad had revealed.
That's crazy. I would love to see that in Saudi Arabia to see how much like greenery I guess there is there now, because I don't know that much about Saudi Arabia at all, but to see that and to use that technology to grow the greens out there, that's awesome, man. And I know that a lot of Christians, they feel that the end times are near, and I'm definitely picking that up in the Muslim community, that they also agree that the end times are near. And I think I said it before, I have to agree that, we don't know when it's going to be, but it's like we have to be in the beginning stages of it. Maybe not in our lifetime, who knows, but it really, really seems like that. Like there's just like an like an intense evil in the world right now that and it seems like no one can stop it for some reason, at least for now. I don't know. It's like this evil disease that's behind the scenes that's pulling it's like pulling all the strings, All right, let's go.
Just as Muhammad had revealed. The rapid spread of Islam and the decline of the Muslims. Muhammad, peace be upon him, predicted that the Islamic civilization would reach both east and west. He said, "God folded the earth for me, and I saw its east and west, and the dominion of my nation will reach as far as the earth was folded for me." History bears witness to the fact that Islam spread rapidly, both east and west, just as Muhammad boldly had foretold. At the time, this was a geographic expansion the likes of which the world had never witnessed. The Islamic Empire was the largest the world had ever seen. The Prophet Muhammad not only informed us about the spectacular rise of the Muslims, he also foretold their decline. He said, "The nations will call each other and set upon you, just as diners set upon food." Someone then asked, "Will it be because of our small number that day?" The Prophet Muhammad replied, "Rather, on that day you will be many, but you will be like foam, like the foam on the river." Here we can see that Muhammad prophesied the dire circumstances in which the Muslims would find themselves. He explained that a day would come in which the Muslims would be large in number, but in such a state of weakness that other nations would invite one another to set upon them. The analogy of Muslims being eaten as a meal was given, which emphasizes just how helpless they would become. This prediction accurately describes the radical turn of events that took place in the Muslim world in the 19th and 20th century. Prior to this, the Muslim lands had grown to become some of the most powerful in the world. From the time of the death of Muhammad until the 19th century, the Muslims were economically, politically, militarily, and technologically far ahead of most of the world. Then the unthinkable happened. Nearly all the Muslim world was occupied, colonized, and militarily defeated by non-Muslim nations. Russia had annexed the Caucasus. France controlled Algeria, Morocco, and Tunisia. Great Britain occupied Egypt, Syria, Iraq, Palestine, and India. And the Dutch controlled Malaysia and Indonesia. Of the 50 Muslim countries that exist today, only a few survived occupation, and the ones that did were still subject to colonial masters. All of this is just as the Prophet Muhammad had predicted. At the time, there was an estimated 200 million Muslims, representing 12.5% of the world's population. But their considerable numbers could do nothing to prevent the defeat by their rivals.
I do want to say this. I hope this. I don't know. Some of the things I say in this video will get me banned. I really hope not. But who cares? You know, if you're saying the truth, it is what it is. And we're finding that many of these narratives that come from the Western governments about the invasions that they do in the Middle East, you know, Afghanistan, Iraq, and so on, is that these narratives are crumbling and falling apart. And it's sad, you know. I was in the military, the United States military, and I believe things that they told me, you know, because why wouldn't I? Because, you know, 20 years ago, you thought, well, at least for me, I thought that you could trust the news. I thought that if my government told me something, that it was true. Like, why would they lie to me? Why would they lie to military personnel and send them on missions based off of lies? You know, why would you do that? And that was my process. Like, I never even considered for a second that they were either lying or telling half truths, or they weren't sure, you know. And it really just seems like at this point that basically all they were doing was a resource grab. They want to go over there and take the resources, basically. That's what it seems like to me. I don't know, you know. But yeah, let's go, man.
But their considerable numbers could do nothing to prevent the defeat by their rivals. They were weak like the foam on a river. Again, just as Muhammad had foretold. If we reflect on this prediction, it is quite counterintuitive. If this prediction was guesswork, then it would have made more sense to state that the Muslims would be diminished in number, and that would be the cause of their weakness. Yet Muhammad predicted the exact opposite. A paradoxical situation of the Muslims being vast in number but very weak. And it came true. Historically speaking, when religions lose their influence on the world stage in such a way, it is usually followed by a stagnation or decline in the number of their followers. Yet Muhammad foretold the exact opposite with regards to the religion of Islam. He said that it would continue to grow in terms of the number of followers, to the extent that it would eventually enter every household. He said, "This matter will certainly reach every place touched by night and day. God will not leave a house or residence, except that God will cause this religion to enter it." Today we are witnessing this prophecy unfold before our very eyes. Islam is currently the fastest growing religion in the world, with nearly 1 in 4 people on earth being a Muslim, and is forecasted to be the world's largest religion by the year 2070. This is despite Islam being constantly attacked by the media, the colonization of Muslim lands, and the many wars that have been waged in the Muslim world.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, all of these things, they do certainly appear to be true. And I know that from a cultural standpoint in the United States, there's plenty of people who are ignorant about Islam. Like, they've never asked questions. They never read anything from the Quran. They've never seen any of these type of videos. They never talked to anybody, and they just have assumptions. It's like they fear it, you know. They have that like association with like extremists, with terrorism, and they just, which is obviously a stupid thing to do, because if you have like 2 billion Muslims, if they were all terrorists, like they would own the entire world. Like, I wouldn't even be making this video right now, you know. And it's just a complete stupidity and ignorance. But it's definitely spreading, and it's definitely becoming a lot more like socially normal, you know. Like, if someone says like, oh, so and so is a Muslim, like everybody's like, oh, that's cool, you know. Whereas like maybe 20 years ago or more, people would be like, whoa, a Muslim, like what, you know. That's how people would be. And even me to an extent back then, because I didn't know anything, you know what I mean. Like, I just like heard things on the news or whatever, and just was dumb. Basically just dumb. And there's still a lot of dumb people out there. I'm not trying to insult people, but I think you guys understand what I'm saying. All right, let's go.
Muslim lands and the many wars that have been waged in the Muslim world. Even the name Muhammad has prophetic implications. It's an Arabic word that means the praised one. The Quran states how Muhammad's remembrance will be raised. We elevated your mention for you. Since this verse was revealed over 1400 years ago, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, has been the most praised person in history. Today, not a second goes by without a minaret somewhere in the world publicly proclaiming the time for prayer and saying,
أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله.
I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of God.
أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله.
Moreover, the name Muhammad is consistently the most popular name given to newborns across the globe. This is despite the fact that Muhammad never encouraged Muslims to adopt his name. In fact, he said that the best names are Abdullah and Abdurrahman. Now, we've analyzed a number of the Prophet Muhammad's prophecies, which were made over 1400 years ago, and have seen how he has accurately foretold many things. Purely from the standpoint of basic probability, for someone to accurately guess about such future events, which spanned across multiple nations in different time periods, many of which were outside the sphere of Muslim influence, to give so many predictions without making a single mistake is utterly impossible. Today, millions of people believe in false prophets and follow false systems for guidance in life. As human beings, we're willing to follow false prophets, man-made systems, and baseless superstitions, but why don't we accept the real guidance when it comes from God? God empowered the Prophet Muhammad with accurate prophecies as a way for us to distinguish the true prophets from the false. Truth has now arrived, and falsehood perished, for falsehood is, by its nature, bound to perish.
Yeah, I'm assuming in Muslim countries there's none of this type of nonsense that I'm about to talk about. But over here, like I don't know what they're called, like power crystals or like like spirit crystals or something like that. And like people think that if you put them in a room, it like gives you this healing energy or something. And typically, what are they called? Like tarot cards or whatever, like the cards that, I don't know, I guess if you look at them, it's supposed to tell you your future or something like that. And like, I don't know. I know I've known many people over the years who like take that stuff like fairly seriously, and I just don't understand why, because it's clearly complete nonsense. But yeah, let's go, man.
By its nature, bound to perish. This video is based on the book, The Forbidden Prophecies. To learn more about the evidences for Muhammad's prophethood, please download your free copy of the book at the link below.
Oh, that's cool. It's free. Oh. Okay. Yeah, that was a good video. I'm really, truly enjoying learning about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And I definitely can see that these prophecies are, it's convincing. It would be hard to say that all of those were just like a natural progression or a coincidence, so I like it. I'm really enjoying this. Man, when I when I see videos like that, like I hate it when people are like, well, that's just a conspiracy. You're a conspiracy theorist. Like it's talking about, as far as it pertains to talking about the evil in the world. Like I said, I think everybody at this point who has an IQ over like 80 can tell that there's clearly something very evil and very wrong happening. It's like everything you see on TV is a lie, and you may not be able to prove that immediately, but you know, once like a month, 6 months, 2 years goes by, and then the truth finally comes out, and that keeps happening over and over and over and over, you know, and it's like these same groups of high-powered people that, like, sometimes they pretend to not like each other or to be opposed to each other, but it's all nonsense. It's all just like a show. You know, I'm sure you guys have heard that that phrase, like the world is a stage, and I'm starting to really think that that's true. It's like it's a bunch of actors almost. That may not be the case, and it may not always be the case, but it feels like that. The more time goes on, you know, you see all these politicians going back and forth with each other, arguing, and nothing ever happens. Like, they'll prove that they clearly broke the law severely, and then there's no punishment. They're not even removed from Congress or from government or anything, you know. It's like they just stop talking about it, and like a week later, no one cares. There's a new tragedy, or there's a new gossip going around. I don't know. It just disgusts me. I don't even watch TV anymore because I don't believe anything they say. And every single show that I turn on now is just like, it's the type of immoral behavior in relationships that I don't like, and I don't want to see it. So it's like there's not even anything hardly to like be entertained by anymore. You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know. TV's kind of a waste of time anyway, but yeah. I was looking at those series again. I was looking at them, and I can't remember the name of the channel that has it, but it's the Prophet series, and I think it starts with Adam from the beginning. And I kind of wanted to check with you guys. Maybe I'll do like a poll or something, because I want you guys to like feel engaged as well. Because if we do a whole series, you know, it could take a couple of weeks to get through that. And also, I wanted to ask y'all's opinion on what you think would be the best way, you know, for me to learn. I was thinking just start with Adam in the Prophet series from the beginning and just kind of move forward, you know. But I don't know. I'm always trying to like kind of like figure out what you guys think is the best, because you know more about this information. And I'm still working on the Quran. I'm definitely still working on that. And I was thinking, I don't know if I should wait till I finish it to learn more about the ring composition, or if I can just start learning about the ring composition now, because I saw a video earlier, and I think it was like 10 minutes long. And I think that it could give like a brief summary of what it's about, because you guys have told me in the comments, like I think it was like 6 weeks ago probably, and you were kind of explaining that to me more. And I'm just intensely curious about that, you know. I don't know. You know what? I think I'm going to do that video next. I'm going to do, I'm going to do that, the ring composition video next. I think it was like 10 minutes long. I keep thinking about that and how cool it is. And like, I don't remember, Newman Ali Khan, he was saying, I can't remember. You know what? I'm just going to do the video because I got to know. And that's what I'm going to do next. So I will see you guys either maybe later tonight or tomorrow for sure. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you guys.